Welcome to your deep dive. The topic today is, well, it's a vital one. It's that link, the one we often overlook, between having a grand vision and actually achieving lasting impact. Accountability.
It's so true. We can all get fired up by a charismatic leader or, big, bold plan. But our sources today argue that vision without measurement, it's really just hope. And hope can quietly fade into disappointment.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're looking at a pretty powerful stack of material that I think reveals how effective leadership isn't really proven in the inspiration of the beginning.
No, it's in the discipline of sustaining the mission. It's the follow-through.
Exactly. We're going to unpack some timeless principles from biblical stories all the way to modern strategy that show how leaders keep faith with their purpose.
And the core thesis here is, it's pretty unmistakable. And it really challenges a lot of our modern assumptions about success. Leadership isn't fundamentally about talent or charisma. It's defined by accountability.
So to get that lasting impact, you have to be courageous.
You have to be. You have to face the data honestly and measure what truly matters, not just what's easy to count.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I want to start at, well, the absolute beginning.
Yeah.
Because our sources establish that measurement, it's not some modern management fad. It's a fundamental concept.
It's a timeless one, rooted right in the character of God, who you could almost call the ultimate accountable architect.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, think about it. The creation narrative, it's not chaotic. It's an intentional, ordered process. And you have that recurring refrain.
And God saw that it was good.
Exactly. That was, in essence, the first divine act of quality control. It was an act of assessment, making sure the work met perfect standards before moving on. The whole process was measured step by step.
And this focus on precision, it just gets more intense from there, doesn't it? Like with the building of the tabernacle and then the temple.
Oh, absolutely. The instructions given to Moses were just incredibly meticulous, down to the exact number of loops, the dimensions. It all had to adhere to a very precise, divine blueprint.
That insistence on a standard, on a blueprint, it seems foundational. It teaches that if you want work that endures, the process really, really matters.
It wasn't just about building a shelter. It had to be built God's way. That blueprint sets the standard that all future stewardship has to be measured against.
So is the idea here that if we want enduring impact, we've got to focus on that process precision first, even before the people?
Precisely. You need the blueprint before you start assigning tasks. And, speaking of people, the very first test of human accountability happens right there in Eden.
God gives Adam a job stewardship and one clear boundary.
A single boundary. That was the initial measure of their faithfulness. And when it was violated, God's question, where are you? I mean, obviously he knew where they were.
Right, it wasn't about geography.
No, it was the divine start of a feedback loop, of an invitation to account, a moment for them to take inventory.
And what's fascinating is their immediate response.
It's so human. Adam's first instinct is to deflect, to blame Eve. And what does Eve do?
Immediately blames the serpent.
Right. So 2 verses into human history.
Right.
And we already have the complete management guide to It Wasn't Me. It's amazing.
It really is. That's a critical insight.
It is, because it shows that any system of measurement we create has to anticipate that human tendency for failure and deflection, but still insist on clear standards.
Okay, let's move to maybe the clearest framework for accountability in the sources. The parable of the talents. It's just a perfect model for stewardship.
It's so direct, isn't it? It makes it clear that accountability is deeply personal. You're judged based on what you received, each according to his ability.
So you're not measured against the person who got 5 talents if you only got 1?
No. The judgment is fair because the starting point was tailored. But the expectation for everyone, no matter the amount, was growth. It was a return.
The doubling of the talents, that's like a really unambiguous key performance indicator, a KPI. Faithfulness was tied directly to diligent effort and, well, demonstrable increase.
And if you varied it, you failed the KPI. It's that simple. And the consequence for that third servant, it's stark, but it's worth thinking about. He wasn't condemned because he missed a financial target.
No, he was called wicked and lazy because he was paralyzed by fear.
That's the key. Fear of failure led to inaction, which led to zero fruitfulness.
Yeah.
The sources are so clear that fear and inaction are just huge obstacles to accountability.
Which sets up a perfect contrast with Nehemiah. I mean, here's a guy who gives a masterclass in execution under extreme pressure.
Absolutely. When he gets to Jerusalem, what's his first move? It's not a big press conference.
No fundraising gal.
It's a covert, on-the-ground audit of the broken wall.
Yeah.
He had to measure the gap, verify the scale of the problem himself before he could even talk about a solution.
That is such a leadership lesson. Audit first, communicate second. Then he structures the accountability so brilliantly. He doesn't make it one giant, overwhelming project.
He uses systematic delegation, assigns specific sections of the wall to different families.
And that simple act, it creates these immediate, measurable milestones. And it also fosters peer accountability, right? When you know your neighbor is counting on you to finish your 10-foot section.
The whole incentive changes. It's not top-down compliance anymore. It becomes shared ownership.
And then when the opposition shows up,
Sanballat and Tobiah. He doesn't freeze. He doesn't abandon the mission. He adapts the strategy instantly.
he arms the workers. They literally worked with one hand and held a weapon in the other.
It's basically biblical, agile leadership, isn't it? Changing the process without ever changing the goal.
Yeah.
And you can't argue with the measurable outcome.
The whole project was completed in 52 days, a crystal clear deadline, and just a powerful testament to structured execution.
Okay, so let's pivot from that to Paul's ministry. He gives us a different but an equally structured method of measurement. His letters to the early churches, they basically function as a spiritual KPI system.
They really were accountability reports, weren't they? He's constantly evaluating everything: spiritual health, doctrinal purity, financial integrity.
All of it. He's celebrating successes, and then he's also identifying where course correction is needed. But this is where we hit a really interesting tension in measurement.
Right, because Nehemiah measured feet of wall, tangible progress. But Paul points to something else, an ultimate KPI.
He defines it in 1 Corinthians 13. The ultimate measure wasn't how many people were baptized or how big the offering was. It was love.
And that's a huge shift from the easily quantifiable, the numbers, to this profoundly qualitative measure, love. It shows that the most critical measures are often internal, relational.
And that leads us right into the modern challenge. In today's world, you're just bombarded with information, endless demands. It is so easy to fall into the busyness trap.
Oh, it's the constant risk for any leader. Confusing motion with purpose. We lose momentum not because the vision failed, but because we stop measuring real progress. We just replace purposeful with busy.
I know, I've been guilty of that. Pouring hours into high-activity tasks that at the end of the day had zero lasting impact.
The sources use that great analogy of Martha and Mary. Martha with her flurry of activity, and Mary with her focused presence. Busyness becomes a convenient smokescreen.
It masks a lack of real strategic focus. If all your resources are going into activities that don't produce a transformative impact, you're just spinning your wheels.
So we have to redefine what we're counting. We've got to move beyond those traditional metrics, what our sources call nickels and noses.
Right. Just counting attendance and budget lines, that's a measure of activity, of input. We need KPIs that measure genuine transformation, the outcome.
So give us an example. Instead of just counting events.
You track impact KPIs,
Yeah.
things like engagement in spiritual disciplines or the depth of ministry involvement, the health of your leadership pipeline, or even those observable fruit of the Spirit indicators.
Okay, but hold on. How do you measure something like love or patience? I mean, how does a modern organization actually track the fruit of the Spirit? That sounds impossible.
And that's a really important question. You can't put a number on patience, of course, but you can define observable indicators of it in conflict resolution, maybe, or in meeting effectiveness, or in how people respond to criticism.
So you're using more qualitative tools.
Exactly. The sources suggest things like 360-degree feedback, structured observation, or even narrative reporting to capture that genuine transformation that goes way beyond the numbers.
The principle is clear, though. The KPIs have to be aligned with the core vision. They have to focus on the outcome of the activity, not just the activity itself.
And to achieve those outcomes, you have to implement accountability in the right way, within a relational framework, with grace and truth. Because let's be honest, accountability can have a negative, punitive sound to it.
It's true. People hear accountability and they think audit or punishment.
But biblical accountability is so much richer. The sources define it as being answerable for your stewardship to a defined standard, with the goal of growth, faithfulness, and alignment with a divine purpose.
The goal is always elevation, not condemnation.
That goal changes everything. You need that balance that Christ modeled, full of grace and truth. Grace provides the space for forgiveness, for restoration. It frees us from the fear that paralyzed that third servant.
And truth defines the clear standards, the divine blueprint we're aiming for. Accountability without grace just leads to legalism and hiding mistakes.
But grace without accountability, That leads to license, complacency. It's a vital tension you have to maintain.
So, to put this into practice today, leaders need some actionable tools. The sources strongly recommend establishing quarterly vision checkpoints.
Right. And these aren't just your routine weekly meetings. These are strategic retreats for holistic assessment, for strategic adjustment. They stop you from just leading on intuition.
And during these checkpoints, you have to ask the right questions.
Guiding reflection questions. Stop asking, what did we do? And start asking, are we confusing activity with impact? Or where might we be busy but not actually fruitful? Those questions get you below the surface.
And finally, accountability can't just be a top-down thing.
No, it has to be multi-directional. You need robust feedback loops, upward, downward, and peer, to make sure there's continuous learning and early course correction. When it's peer-based, it promotes ownership. It feels relational, redemptive, not punitive.
The whole journey of measuring progress, it really is an invitation to a deeper partnership with the divine and a discipline that molds us into better stewards.
We are called to be, as the sources say, a steadfast steward. Vigilant, disciplined in assessment, courageous in course correction, and humble in celebration.
So as you think about this, ask yourself, if someone examined your leadership today, what would they see? Consistent measurement leading to genuine impact, or just a flurry of well-intentioned movement?
And maybe more importantly, when you measure progress, who are you doing it for? Are you seeking human validation? Or are you aiming for divine alignment with the blueprint you were given?
That difference defines your entire trajectory.
And the provocative thought for you to carry forward is this. What would it look like to implement just one qualitative KPI this week? Something that truly measures transformation, like humility or relational health, instead of just the numbers the world applauds. That's where the real deep dive begins.